All right, welcome back, everyone. We are here with Karen Grill again for another exciting topic for you business owners. We're talking all about funnels today. So, if you have never created a funnel, you'll learn how to create your very first one. If you have some funnels and they're not funneling, they're not making sales, we'll talk about how to fix that too. So, I will toss it over to Karen to introduce herself.
Well, thank you so much, Annie. I'm so glad to be here again. I was here previously if you were around. So I'll just do a quick intro. So I'm a business coach and email strategist. I've been in the online world for over 15 years. And I definitely work to try to help my clients increase their conversions to 2 and 3 times. But today we're going to talk all about funnels. So we're going to talk about what a funnel is so we're all on the same starting page. We all know what we're talking about. We're going to talk about the 4 key stages of a simple funnel. We're going to talk about the leaks because if you have a funnel, you might be having a problem knowing where to go when something is going wrong. And then we'll talk about how you can really simplify your first funnel, or even if you have a funnel, you might want to think about simplifying it. And then we're going to talk a little bit about how to use AI to help you with your funnel. So I'm gonna look, we're gonna start with funnels, the basics, but I wanted to ask how many people have a funnel. So I don't know, I think Annie, you probably have funnels. So I'm not sure if anyone else in the chat, if you wanna share that. I'm gonna pull up the chat so I can see.
I'll just share while folks are thinking. I definitely have funnels, and it's interesting. I have multiple funnels, and they have different purposes depending on the product. So I'll just throw that out there. I've been thinking, how do I curate my funnel for specific users and specific products? So they're not all just plug and play the same way.
That's so true. It really depends on your offer and kind of the journey you want to lead them on. So that's great. So hopefully, if you don't have a funnel yet, you'll learn a little bit today so you'll know how to do that. So let's talk about really what a funnel is. And it's really just your customer's journey through your business, right? It's how it learns about you and then becomes a part of the journey on your business. So it's again the steps you take before you become really a client. The problem is I see most people really focus on tech. They get all worried about the tech and all the tools that they need to do the funnel, but really you have to start first with the strategy. So many people start building a funnel and then they're kind of backtracking because they didn't really do it the right way and they have all these issues and people really aren't going through the whole way. So I definitely recommend thinking through your clients and how they are going to potentially buy an offer from you. So again, you're guiding the right people, right? You want only the right people to go through all the way to the end towards saying yes. And you want to do it without overwhelm. We want to make it so simple for them. We want to take them step by step. Really want to guide them through so that it's a great experience for them. So we're going to go through a funnel that's pretty simple. There's more complicated funnels, but I just wanted to make it the simplest way possible, especially if you're starting with your first one. So these are the main stages you would have. So awareness, right? They kind of find out about you somewhere. Maybe they see something on social media or you in a video or someone recommends them, right? Then consideration is when they start to learn about what you do, what you offer, and how you help people. The evaluation stage is really when they're looking to see, okay, she has a solution to my problem. Is she the one I want to maybe buy from? Are there other options out there? So they're really looking through what their options are. And then, of course, the purchase stage, which is what we want them to get to. And then there is a post purchase, but we'll just stick with kind of these 4 funnel stages to begin with. So I thought I'd break it down and what we need to do as business owners in each stage. So in awareness, we need to be visible, right? We have to be out there. We have to be relevant for a specific audience. So whether you're doing that in social media, you're doing it on podcasts, wherever you're doing that, we have to make sure we're really visible. If people don't know about us, they can't get in our funnel. And a lot of times, you'll see people say, gosh, I just found you, on LinkedIn, or I just found you on Instagram. That's really what awareness is all about. The next stage consideration. So that's when we need to get them to know more about us, the know, like, and trust, as we talk about. So whether that's using email or maybe you have a community, however that is, they start to know more about you and want to know more. So they're like, I'm curious about this person. I wonder if they can help me. So that's when we really need to make sure that we're kind of holding their hand to help them get to the next stage. Because evaluation is all about us showing that, we're trustworthy, we're experts, we know what we're doing, we've helped other people get results. And we need to be clear about the results and the things that we get. Because this is really when they're thinking, gosh, I've been following her for a while. I do have this problem and I just can't seem to solve it on my own. I wonder if this is the right solution. So this is a really important phase for us as business owners. And then the last one is the purchase stage. We have to make it easy for them to say yes to us. I've seen a lot of, unfortunately, funnels where the purchase part is so convoluted. It is not clear at all. There's a lot of steps, kind of unnecessary steps. So when they finally make this decision, we want to make it easy for them to say yes, easy to purchase from us and be a part of our business. So those are kind of the four stages and what we need to think about as business owners. So, if you're just starting out, I really think it's important for you to think about the simplest funnel possible because you can always go more complex. But a lot of people try to do it so complex from the beginning and then it doesn't work and they have so many different parts and they don't know where to start to kind of fix it. So let's just start simply. And so, starting with one clear offer. And I have to say, this is almost the hardest part. A lot of us who are experts in our field forget what we need to do in order to make it understandable for other people. And so, really getting one clear offer for people is really challenging. So, I would definitely challenge you to really think about your offer and make sure that it is clear. And then we need to think about, okay, well, how are they going to find out about this offer? And we need to kind of map out. I actually like to draw it out because for me, I'm a visual kind of person, just kind of drawing out, okay, well, I start with the offer first, and I usually start with the end in mind, right? And then we kind of work backwards to figure out, well, how are we going to bring them to this place? Okay. And then one clear way to convert. So, whatever path it is, we need to have that conversion part of the funnel. So again, hopefully that helps make funnels maybe a little less scary. I know a lot of people, you'll see maps of these huge convoluted funnels, but let's just break it down to the basics and start simple. And usually simple works better. So I just thought I'd give a couple examples of, typical funnels, especially as a first funnel that you might have. So for instance, you might have a lead magnet of some kind of freebie. So maybe it's a checklist, maybe it's some kind of free video, a free audio, whatever that is. So some kind of freebie. So once people give you their email and sign up for it, what do we do next, right? We're going to send them some emails to really nurture them. So that's again when we're going to help them maybe get a win from that lead magnet, right? If it's a checklist, helping them make sure they're completing it. And then kind of learn more about us and how we talk about things and see if potentially we might be a fit, right? So that then when you make that offer, they already know you a little bit and they feel, comfortable that they would maybe want to actually purchase something for you. So this is a simple kind of lead magnet funnel. Now I will say that these are kind of the big blocks, the freebie to the nurture to the offer. There's a lot of little micro steps in between. So we'll talk about that as well. But I just wanted to give you an over kind of high level view. Another really common one, especially I would say kind of for coaches or service providers, you would first have kind of this call, like a discovery call, right? And then after the call, you might email them and talk about what you talked about on that call. And then maybe you're going to be sending them a proposal as well. So this is kind of one of the simplest funnels that a lot of people have, even if you don't have tons of offers or, a shop or anything like that. I will say that when you think about it as a discovery call, you need to think about those micro steps as I was talking about. So I've seen and audited a lot of funnels where the discovery call, it'll say like 30-minute call and it won't have a description. And you have to, again, put yourself in the place of someone who's new to you. You want to make sure you're kind of guiding them and holding their hand step by step. So you really want to have a name of a call that makes sense so that when they click the booking link, let's say they're on Instagram and they just click it and they land on this page, they know what it's for and if it's for them or not. If it's not like kind of in alignment with what they saw on Instagram, they might not want to book that call. So we have to be careful, not only the title of the discovery call, the description of the discovery call. So then let's say they find their time and their date. Then they're going to land on a thank you page, right? We want to make sure, what does that say? Does that help guide them? And then do we have those, reminders to make sure that they're going to show up to our call, right? So there's micro steps in between that. And that's kind of what we're really looking at in terms of a funnel audit. We're really looking at each little step. So every button you click, what happens? And put ourselves in the shoes of someone who is new. And would that make sense to them? Would that make them feel like, okay, I know what to do next? We need to be clear about what's the next step for them. So that's just an example, again, the high level, but then there's all those little steps in between that we need to think about. So I thought I'd give you some examples, some kind of case studies of some real life funnels. So I worked with Jordan, who was a web app developer. And so he did custom web apps for businesses. And so, he had a lot in the awareness phase, right? So he was on podcasts and he had lead magnets and he was active on social media. So he had a lot of places that people could come into his funnel. But he needed to lead everyone to a call because, he's doing a custom web app. So he needs to be able to talk with them. They're usually kind of longer term projects. He would say like 3 to 6 months. So he wanted to make sure he got along with them, like he would want to work with them, right? So that was kind of his process of kind of vetting to see if this was a good match for his skills, but also if they thought they could work well together. So he had that call and had that sales conversation. And then typically, if they wanted to move forward, he would send them a proposal. And if they accepted it, then they would sign the contract. Now you can imagine, being in podcasts and all these places, he had a lot of people who were aware of him. But very few people actually get to the bottom to purchase from him because, you have to kind of be the right kind of business and the right situation. Looking for this kind of project. So let's say 100 people found out about him, maybe 1 to 2 would get to the bottom. And that's okay because there are other people who maybe know about him. They're in the consideration phase, but they're not quite ready to hire him yet. But that's why it's so important to continue to nurture some of those people who aren't ready to purchase from you at that moment so that they remember you. So when, like for him, a web application idea came up, they're like, oh, that's right, Jordan, we follow him. Let's go check in with him, right? So it's staying top of mind for the people who don't make it all the way to the bottom. And, so different people are going to go different speeds through your funnel, and we have to keep that in mind as well. So the next one is Ellen, who is a relationship coach. And so she had a webinar that she did, every couple months. And it was all about, people looking to improve their relationships. And so the webinar was really the key place. Now, she definitely posted it on social media, but that was kind of the main start of her funnel. And she had a group coaching program to help people with relationships. And so on her webinar, then she would pitch this group coaching program, and then people could sign up there right on the spot. And she really found that this worked really well for her. So the people that came to the webinar were kind of already primed, right? So, I mean, obviously she was on social media and so people would kind of see her, but to actually sign up for a specific webinar on improving relationships, you've kind of already vetted some of those people. And so she found a great conversion from her webinar then to her group coaching program. Like those people already have, relationship problems. They already have seen her. And the webinar really helped them make the decision that, yes, this is what I want to do now. So she had really high conversion. So from kind of the awareness of the webinar to the purchase, she was doing like 40 to 50%, which is pretty good. And so, she was lucky that the way she set up that funnel made it really easy for people to get to the bottom. So those are just kind of two types of funnels. So next, I wanted to talk about kind of common funnel leaks. So it sounds great, right? You're like, oh, great, Karen, there's these 4 stages and I'll just create that and everything will work perfectly. If only that were the case, right? It's never quite that easy. And so I want to talk about kind of the areas that people start to have problems so you know what to look for and what are things that you can do to stop these leaks. So again, we have those 4 stages. You need to think about, okay, where are all my leads dropping off? Like I said, a lot of people maybe come in at the awareness stage, right? But not everyone will get to the bottom. So we have to look at each step to find the issue. So this is, again, we have to kind of put detective hats on, right? And really look at where are the problems that I'm having. So these are kind of some of the typical funnel problems. So some funnels, they have no traffic at the top. So they're not even getting any people at the top. So, that's a fairly easy one to fix. And again, it all goes back to that awareness of being visible, right? We have to be visible and relevant to the right people. So, once you do that, then you can have some of these other issues if you have traffic. So low opt-in rate. So let's say the top one is like a lead magnet, or maybe it's a webinar. People just aren't signing up. Okay, so that's one problem that people can have. So just at the top of that funnel, you're having problems getting people to move through. Confusing thank you pages. I see this a lot. I would say, especially with lead magnets and webinars, that a lot of times it's just the default thank you page from like your email service provider, or if you use some kind of tool like lead pages or something like that. So I think we're finding that the more kind of specific in terms of next steps you should take, the better results you will get. So the thank you page, you need to tell them, let's say you have a double opt-in, you have to say, okay, you need to go to your email and check for the link and click on it, right? If it's for a webinar, make sure you're saying, make sure you click on this and add it to your calendar right this minute, right? So that we're getting people to take the steps in order for them to be able to move farther in our funnel. You'll see a lot of generic emails. So there are a lot of templates out there, and some of the templates are fine. But I would say that you start to sound like everybody. Like I have received the exact same email from people, just kind of swapping names and titles of products. And again, it when I try to think of myself as a person who's just receiving these, if I got two of the same emails, that would feel weird. It would feel like you don't really understand me. You're not trying to get to know me. You're not trying to connecting, right? And I think email is so important these days for trying to build these relationships and connections. So if you feel like I got two of the exact same emails, that doesn't feel like you're trying to build a relationship with someone. So that kind of breaks that trust. So I think that's definitely one area we can all do better on. And then again, unclear next steps. And this is across the board. A lot of times we kind of think it makes sense for people what to do. But again, we need to put ourselves in their shoes and think about, okay, what would this look like to an outsider who knows nothing about us, right? We need to be really clear. So I'm going to go through kind of each of these and tell you kind of some of the fixes. So to start driving consistent traffic, we really want to create a strategy to drive the traffic, right? A lot of people build these funnels but have no traffic strategy. Well, if you don't get people on the top of the funnel, nobody can get to the bottom. So, it can be organic and it can be paid, but you really need to think through the strategy and you want to test it out. So let's say you're thinking of doing, Facebook Lives, or you're doing Instagram Reels and Stories or something like that. Do it for a little while, but see, is it getting you the results that you want? And if not, then you might need to switch that strategy. I definitely recommend for someone starting a new funnel, you know, pick one social media platform if that's what you're going to do, or if you're going to do email, figure out the platform you want to do and make sure you're showing up consistently there. That's the way that you're going to start to get people to recognize you and see you as that expert and want to be a part of your funnel. And for sure, you need to set up analytics. I see so many people who build a funnel and they're like, I'm not getting anyone purchasing it. I'm like, well, tell me each stage, kind of what those metrics look like. And they're like, oh, I don't look at any metrics. They only look at if they're buying, right? Well, there's so many places we need to know about beforehand to make sure people are getting to the buying part, right? So again, you can't fix a funnel if no one's entering it. So, definitely if you're newer to building a funnel, definitely think about this from the beginning. Like, how are you going to get people to this funnel? Don't just build it blindly. So the next, if you have low opt-ins, so let's say you have that lead magnet, um, you're going to have to think about if you're really solving a problem that people need a solution to, and if it needs to be urgency, right? Some people have great lead magnets, but it's not something urgent. So there's less likelihood that people would sign up for it right now at that moment. I think it's really important if you can be super specific about the problem you're solving, and hopefully it's kind of some urgent problem, people are more likely to sign up for it. So if people aren't opting in, you really need to look at that first, but also look at kind of your sales page or the landing page that you have for the lead magnet. Really work on not talking about the features necessarily, but what are the benefits? What do they get out of that? I think having a really, curiosity inducing kind of headline and short, punchy copy that really makes them say to themselves, oh my gosh, I do have this problem. It sounds like she can solve this for me, right? You want them to have that feeling like, I need to have this now and I need to figure this problem out. So again, I see a lot of people with lead magnets and say, join my newsletter, but nobody wakes up in the morning saying, oh my gosh, I want to join a newsletter today, right? They're thinking about, okay, I got to solve this problem. This is really a problem for me. I want it done so I can move on, right? So they want to get those small wins right away. And I think that's what we need to focus on for those kind of lead magnets. So confusing thank you pages, like I said, we have to give them the next step and we have to be super clear. I think, let's say you're signing up for a lead magnet, let's say it's a checklist, a website checklist or something. Once they put their email in, the thank you page should again reiterate what they signed up for, kind of what's coming when it happens. You'll see in a lot of thank you pages say, well, in the next 15 minutes, it'll be delivered to your inbox or something like that, right? We're just being really clear and it's kind of minutia maybe, but it's giving detailed information to them so they know they can expect what's going to happen. And, on those thank you pages, depending on what it is, you can always say, join my Facebook group or, book a call, really help them take the next step. Remember, when people are signing up for a lead magnet, that's probably when they're most excited about it, that moment. So anything you can do to really kind of bring them into your world right away is the best way to keep them there. A lot of people will sign up for lead magnet and then forget about it and don't remember that they signed up for it or what it was or anything like that. So really capture that interest at that moment when they're signing up. And we don't want, again, the conversation to end at, just thank you. We want to give them the next steps of how to keep going. So generic emails, like I said, there's a lot of templates out there, but we're all different people. And we all have different personalities and we all have, different reasons that we're in business. And you want to make sure that you are sharing your voice, your experience, your knowledge, right? And so, storytelling is definitely a great way to kind of bring people in. They love to hear stories. They also like to hear opinions. So maybe you have maybe a different angle on the way you talk about things or you solve problems for people. Asking them questions, again, trying to draw them in and have some engagement with them. People really like that. They don't want just a template sent to them. The clear subject lines has always been an issue, right? We want to have people want to click, and then we have to make the email just as interesting as that headline, right? The subject line. And again, I see a lot of people with multiple calls to action in these emails. You got to have one because people get so distracted. So think if they click one, they might go off somewhere else, right, and book a call, and they'll never come back to the email to get to the second call to action, right? So we really need to think from their perspective. A lot of people are looking at their phones. They don't have a lot of time, and so they're scrolling quickly. We want to just make sure we give them one action, the one thing we want them to do. And it could be something simple as just hit reply and tell me what you think, right? It doesn't have to be a link to somewhere else, but just one action we want them to take. So again, I see a lot of readers tuning out to kind of templated emails or emails that seem the same or just formulaic. And then unclear next steps, like I've said over and over, we have to make it obvious to them what to do next. In each stage, even those micro steps, what they're supposed to do next. And you might think, Karen, but isn't that obvious? It's obvious to us potentially because we're building it. It's not always obvious to the other person. And I would rather over explain than under explain and then have them confused. So if you want them to book a call, make sure you're saying it very clearly what you want them to do. If you want them to hit reply in the email, ask a question that really makes them have to or want to reply to you. So again, we want to be really clear about what steps we want them to take because confused leads don't convert, right? So confused minds don't take action. So we really need to be clear on the calls to action. So we're going to talk about first funnel checklists, some things that you need to think about if you're creating your first funnel. So again, we talk about the strategy. We want to have that overall strategy. So again, have that one offer that you're thinking about now. So, and it could be something as simple as, you just starting out, you don't necessarily have an offer or a course or whatever that is. So maybe it's just to book that call with you, and that's fine. Just be really clear on what the call is, what you're going to do on the call. Maybe you have, a course, maybe you have some kind of one-on-one work that you do. So make that the offer, but just again, be really clear about that. And then think about one entry point. So maybe you have a lead magnet that leads them to the one-on work with you. Maybe you just have, in the DMs and Instagram, whatever that looks like, you just want to have that one entry port for everyone. And then, so once they download that lead magnet, you want to make sure that you have an email sequence, right? That's going to help them know kind of about you and what to do. For my lead magnets, especially if it's like a checklist or they need to work through it, I try to help them get small wins in that lead magnet and kind of guide them each step. Like, great, you did this first part. Okay, now this next thing. Here are some things that you should look for, or here are the mistakes that I see people often make. Really helping them because I want them to get a win because then they'll be more likely to trust me, right? So I want them to be able to stay on my email list a long time. So eventually, hopefully, that they'll want to purchase from me. And then, have that one sales page or the landing page or the booking link. You need to have that as well. And then I always talk about analytics. You want to have at least one metric that you're tracking, right? So whether you're booking calls, then you'll, focus on those calls. Maybe it's sales, you'll look at those sales, right? So these are just the 5 main things that you need to do for a funnel. And hopefully that simplifies it for you and makes it not so hard because we're going to do a little work in just a minute. So I want you to think about your main offer. Like I said, it could just be booking a call. It could be, something that you already have or something you're thinking of doing. So these are some questions to kind of help you. Like, so how I have this offer. Let's say it's this one-on-one coaching program I have. So how are people going to find out about this, right? So that's kind of that awareness stage that we're thinking about. And then what happens? Like, what am I going to do after they maybe get on my email list? What am I going to do next? And you have to think kind of, that's why I say I like to draw it out, kind of this pathway that people are going to go so that they can get to that bottom of the funnel to purchase. So I'm going to give you all just a couple minutes to kind of work on that. Maybe I'll leave this on here so you guys can think about that. So really think about, maybe you have a booking call little funnel that you want to create. Maybe it's even just a lead magnet. That's fine for now if that's all you have. Or maybe you do have an offer that you have and that maybe you can think about how you can kind of create those steps. So I think I'll just give you guys a couple minutes to maybe work on that. And if you have a funnel, like I would go through these steps that we're just talking about and see, okay, do I have every step? Am I missing maybe a step? Maybe you don't have emails going out after they sign up for your lead magnet. Maybe that's something you can think about creating as well.
Yeah, I would love, I know there's a couple of folks here today, Jamie, Ibuken, Jean, does anyone want to have their funnel examined? If not, I'm happy to share one of mine and we can tear apart all the pieces that need to be fixed in it. But if anyone else wants to share theirs, would love to hear from folks.
Yeah, I mean, either way, like I would love you to build it and then we can talk through it because if you don't have one, if you have one, if you want to talk through it, so either way.
I'll leave that open, but if anyone does end up, if you're working on it and you want to share something, feel free to come off mute and let us know.
Yeah, why don't you work a couple minutes and then we can check in and see how you guys are doing. So if anyone has any questions while they're building a funnel or want to kind of share what they have, whether it's your offer, booking kind of funnel. And if you don't want to come on camera, you can just put it in the chat too. You don't have to come up if you don't want to. Well, hopefully you got a little start of thinking about that. I think I like definitely people to kind of try to implement some of the things we talked about today because I think you're more likely to remember that. So if anyone has kind of a funnel, if you want to put that in the chat and maybe we can go through that if you'd like, or then maybe Annie, we can do that. I have a little bit more to talk about AI to kind of help you with that, so that might be helpful as well. And then if anyone is wants me to look at their funnel, or Annie, if you have one, we can do that. After kind of the next section. So, AI, everyone talks about AI, and a lot of people are using AI for everything. And I think, we can use AI, but I think there's a good and kind of a not as good way to use it. So I just wanted to give you some ways that you could use AI to help you out. So what I see most people do is they'll just, in ChatGPT or Claude or whoever you use, they'll just jump in and like write me a lead magnet, right? And so they'll get some generic thing that comes out. So the best way to fix this is really to start with context. We have to give a lot of information. So this is kind of a short prompt, but it at least gives you a little closer to some context for AI to give you a better result. So like I am a business coach or email strategist who helps a certain group, an audience, right, overcome this problem. And then maybe you have a certain kind of methodology or blueprint or something that you do to help people that's kind of proprietary to you so they can get a certain result. Okay, you have to give them this context before you even ask the question that you want to ask. So, what I would recommend is you kind of take something like this and you really work on it and put a lot of kind of thought and information for it. So if you have offers or sales page, I would even feed that into the AI. If you have kind of certain emails or copy that you've used, so it kind of gets a sense of your voice, like the more you can put in, the better the result. So once you kind of have this, I would have a Google Doc and just say this is your kind of baseline AI prompt that you can put in every time, so you don't have to write it out every time. You can just copy and paste it in. And then if you have an AI that remembers, that's even better. But have this as a starting point for anything you're going to ask it to do for you. So once you have this context, so it knows more about you, then you can kind of ask the questions. So then you can ask something like, so I'm working on, a lead magnet for my funnel. And then can you help me with 3 ideas for the lead magnet, right? You want to be really specific about the goal once you've given it the context. So for instance, I just made up one. I'm a business coach who helps solopreneurs fix their email strategy by setting up smart segments and better automation so they can land in the inbox and convert more leads. So that's my whole context right there. And I would do even more, but at least this is a good start. And then you can ask them, I'm working on a lead magnet. Can you suggest 3 titles that would attract people who aren't getting results from email? So do you see how specific it is? It's not just create a lead magnet for me, right? I'm just for now asking for titles, kind of brainstorming ideas, right? And it's for a specific purpose. So again, the more specific, the more context, the better results you can get. So, for better results, you can use AI to brainstorm. I think that's a great way to do it. Even to clarify, like let's say you have kind of a lot of ideas, it can help maybe narrow that down or give you reasons why there's pros and cons to each one, and you can then make that decision. And, obviously it can help you move faster. If it can help you kind of with each stage, it will go faster. And that's why I think AI can be helpful, but it can't think for you, right? The strategy still matters. You still matter. Um, so we need to make sure that we're using I think, in the right way. So again, AI is a tool. So you have to give it the context, ask for something specific, but then you need to edit whatever it gives you. So it's going to give you some outputs, right? But again, if we want to stand out, we have to still infuse our personality, the way we do things, the way we work, so that it sounds like us and so that it sounds in alignment with what we do. So again, when you're creating your funnel, it has to be your voice, your strategy, your ideas, and we're just letting AI kind of support us, not replace us. So let me know if anyone has any questions about AI, if they use AI, if they've tried to use it and it hasn't worked for them. Hopefully this will help a little bit. I just feel like it's the context that makes so much difference in being super specific about how you use AI. And I definitely think you can use AI for funnels, but again, just with those kind of criterion that I described. So how many of you are using AI?
I can share an example to go first. So I've used AI to come up with the content that goes into a lead magnet. I've also used it to create landing page language. And I would
Mm-hmm.
say the main thing I do, I read this recently in an article and I thought it was the perfect thing to say. AI is for inspiration, not for copy pasting. Very similar to what you're saying. So even if I have copy pasted over, I'm almost becoming an editor rather than a writer. And so that's how I've used it for inspiration. And then, yeah, definitely using my voice because the last thing we want is someone to read it and think, well, that was ChatGPT. And then suddenly the trust goes down. So I think that's really huge.
And I think that's a huge point because I think the trust does go down, right? Like when I see things written with ChatGPT, I'm like, oh, well, anyone could have done that, right? Like it's not like special to you or special to your business. And so, um, I definitely think it can speed things up. Like, since I work a lot with emails, I will say you can maybe ask ChatGPT to pick maybe between a couple ideas or pick between a couple of subject lines, right? Or it can give you maybe 10 subject lines and you pick them and maybe make a little adjustments. But I would never take what it gives out just as is, like you said. You just can't copy and paste it over and think it will be attractive to people. Remember, AI, they can think, but they're not human, right? And so they don't really understand what, how our human brains work and what we're attracted to and what maybe makes us motivated to take action. They can do pretty good, but they still don't kind of have that last step. And so that's where we need to come in and say, okay, this is pretty good, but we wouldn't say it like this, or that's not quite the right word, or whatever that looks like. Just make sure that we're having that final pass on everything. And again, that's why I think if you have a certain personality, like there's one person I follow, she's huge in the 90s. So everything she talks about is around movies or music. Like AI probably couldn't do that for her. It would seem like not right. And so all of her stuff is so interesting because you can tell it's her, right? Because the way she talks and the things she talks about. So definitely think about you and your personality and how you talk. Some people are more formal, and that's fine. You just need to make sure that that's really you. Some people, are more casual in the way they speak and what they talk about. That's fine. Just make that be you. So we kind of covered a lot today for funnels. So I don't know if people have questions. We covered kind of what a funnel is, the four key stages, common leaks, how to simplify your first funnel, and then how to use AI to plan or review. So I'm happy to take questions. I'm happy to do kind of a funnel review if you're just starting out or if you have one, we can talk through that. So just let me know um, how I could best help you. And you don't have to be bashful or shy. I swear I don't bite or anything. Like I said, I really just want to help you. And so if that's, something we can do together, if you just have an idea, like let's talk through that, we can do that. If you want to do it in the chat, that's fine if you don't want to come on camera. So however I can kind of support you, I'm happy to do that. I guess we have a shy bunch today, Annie.
Yeah, well, and if no one has any questions, I'll throw one out here for the recording that I think maybe a lot of folks are thinking about. So I think they keep changing and the way we do funnels continues to adapt to the world. And I think more and more people are building funnels, using AI to create a business. A lead magnet of funnels becoming more and more popular. So just, do you have any tips in your experience? I know you've been in the field for a long time. Anything that's really current or new or things that we should be thinking about? Like, this is changing. This was the old way we did it. This is how people are doing it now. That's a little more cutting edge.
hmm So I definitely think in the past, because of some of the changes, especially with email marketing, in the past, you could have, lead magnet, people would sign up and you can send everyone the same email, right? We just send it out and you didn't get penalized. There were no problems. You maybe didn't have a great open rate all the time, but it was fine. But now that they changed the rules, that we have to be better as business owners about only sending the right message to the right people. Because if we send emails to people that aren't opening them, you're sending a signal to Google, Yahoo, Outlook, all those people, all those email providers saying you're sending email to people who don't want it, and that hurts your sender reputation. And so I think we have to be more careful about how we're connecting with our audience. So we can't just send kind of broadcast emails and the same message to everyone. We have to learn to understand our audience better. So there are some people in my audience, I talk about a variety of things. Some people only like to hear about emails. Some people only like to hear about funnels. Some people only like to hear about offers. So I know about my audience. We have to kind of narrow down, really dig into our audience and see the differences. So I'm not sending an email that somebody who only wants to talk about offers doesn't want to hear about emails. So I know that, and I only send them the information that's relevant to them. And that's been a big change that just happened last year. And we're still kind of figuring out what's the best way to kind of overcome that because they lowered the spam threshold rate to 0.3%. So even just one email marked as spam can kind of ruin your whole sender reputation and it can take months to recover. So I think it's actually a positive in the sense it's forcing us to know our audience better, to build better relationships and understand what they want from us and us only kind of giving them what they want. So I see that as a huge shift. And like I said, we're still kind of figuring out the best way to do that. But again, if I think of it builds closer relationships and maybe we have smaller email lists now, like people, used to have 50,000 people on their email list and they just send one email to everyone. Maybe now we're having smaller email lists only with the people who really want to hear from us. And so I think that's a big shift.
That's huge. I'm just going to make a plug in case anyone here today wants to sign up. Karen is also going to be leading another workshop on increasing your email open rate, and that's on July 2nd from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific. So come to that one if you are curious about email open rates, because yes, this is such an important thing. I think a lot of business owners don't know about this, and they just start sending emails and they don't know that it might be going to spam. Well, it might be getting marked as spam. It might not even be going to the primary inbox. It's going to the promotion tab. So tons of
Yeah.
stuff we can learn about email. The other question I think that a lot of folks might be curious about is about lead magnets in general, because I see stuff all the time. Like if I'm scrolling Facebook, I'll see lead magnets are dead. No one wants lead magnets. I can tell you, I get downloads of my lead magnets nearly every single day. They are alive and well, but it really depends on the type. So I think you covered a lot of tips already about it needs to be meaningful. It needs to solve a problem now. Anything else, just general trends you're seeing in lead magnets, things that are performing really well and things that have kind of fallen off?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see that the more specific kind of the lead magnet, the better results that you'll get. So, for instance, in the past, you could have just done like, 10 tips for website design or something like that, or like kind of really broad. But now it'd be more like the 10 in a top 10, like WordPress plugins or something, like something more specific, because then people will say, oh, that really applies to me. When you have such a broad topic, people are like, oh, maybe, maybe not. But when you're solving a really specific problem, like we were talking earlier, um, about even how kind of SEO is changing to AEO and what the difference is. So maybe if you had something like that, I mean, you'll see a ton of lead magnets on AI right now, right? Like AI, 100 AI prompts or whatever that is, because that's such a trending topic. But I think, the more specific we can be, so we're having an audience that wants to hear what we talk about. Like, I don't really, I mean, I talk a little bit about AI, but I'm not an AI expert. So I wouldn't have an AI lead magnet because it wouldn't really lead to anywhere for me. Like, I don't have an AI offer at the end. So again, it's thinking kind of what's the offer eventually that I'm going to do. Don't just do random lead magnets. Really think about that step by step through the funnel. So you're getting the right people on your email list. So they're not going to mark you as spam, right? And they'll want to eventually buy from you. So I think just being more specific, being really targeted in the audience we're trying to, it's much narrower now, I think, than it used to be. So if you can think through that, solve a really specific problem, get them a good win.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, if there's one thing I would tell people to take away, it would be to think about the end goal and work backwards, because you're absolutely right. If you create a lead magnet and fill your list, and you might feel internally really good, like I got 500 signups, but it's totally unrelated to your final offer that people would pay for, or you got the wrong people in the door, then yes, your chances of them buying or marking you as spam or some disengaging is really high.
Yeah.
So that, yeah, that is so, so critical.
Yeah. A lot of things are changing too, so we just got to kind of stay up on that with AI is coming is changing things, but with the email had a
Yeah.
big change. So I think as business owners, we just have to be aware. And if we have questions, you need to make sure you're reaching out and asking for help. And but I think for us, it's really looking at kind of the metrics and the data so that we can make informed decisions. Because I know so many business owners don't like to look. They're really creative and they're really great experts at what they do, but they're a little afraid of the numbers. But unless you know the numbers, you won't know what to fix. So I see a lot of people say, oh, Karen, I'm sure it's like the Facebook ads aren't working for me. But when we dig in, it's not. It's actually their offer. People just don't want it. And so unless you know
Yes.
where they're dropping off or what the issue is, you're not going to solve the right problem. So definitely take a look at your analytics. Even if you have like two people on your subscriber list, it doesn't matter how many, like get into the habit of looking so that when you actually have all those people, you'll know what to look for. You feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so true, right? Because you could get 50% of people clicking on your ad, and clearly that means the ad is working. So keep using that ad, but if they're not converting at the other side, then something about lead magnet page, the sales page of the offer is broken versus, yeah, if no one's coming through your ad, maybe your offer is amazing, but you're not convincing people to click through. So that data is also, it's going to give you the right information to make the right changes versus scrapping it all or making the wrong change. And then you just don't even know what you're doing anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So true. Well, if nobody wants to go through their funnel or anything, I mean, I'm definitely here. You can definitely reach out to me. I do have a free funnel audit, so you can always go to karengrill.com/funnel call. But also just connect with me on LinkedIn if you're, just starting to build your funnel. Definitely feel free to reach out or follow me there. I talk about more of it there too, but I'm happy to help you. And, thank you so much to Annie for having me. And I hope, this was useful and that you'll kind of start to implement. I'm big about implementing. So especially once we just talked about this, if you can just do one thing, maybe think about that offer or, trace out your steps that you think you would do. I think that will just help you remember for the long term.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone who's here today. And if you're watching the recording, if you're feeling stuck and you want help with your funnel, honestly, there's no hurt and only a lot of gain to just connect with Karen, have that audit happen. I can tell you when I was first building funnels, I was doing tons of things wrong because I just didn't know what I didn't know. And so the more you have someone point these things out to you, it will just become so obvious. And then you'll just get better, better, better. And you're going to make more money, you're going to get more conversions. It's only good from there. So connect with Karen. Thank you all for coming today. I'll just put a final plug. We have all of these ongoing workshops completely for free online with amazing experts, money-essentials.com/events. They're all listed there. So go look up the next upcoming event. And thanks again, Karen, for just a wonderful presentation. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Annie.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye. Have a great week.